The Great Debate questions whether traditional books or ebooks are better. Let's begin with a story of a young girl. This young girl got into quite a lot of mischief growing up, and one of her punishments was to sit in a quiet room with a book and a timer and read for the duration of that timer. Now, she began looking a bit like this girl. Bored, falling asleep, pretty angry with her parents. Reading was really a chore for her and not a pleasant experience. However, as she grew older, she was introduced to new books and new styles of writing that she grew to have a passion for reading and began to look more like this image. She would get into trouble sometimes on purpose so that she could go sit and read her book. Or she would hide under the covers late at night, long after her bedtime, to read just a few more pages, which would lead into a few more pages, and she'd fall asleep with the book beside her. Now the question is, had she been given an e-reader or an iPad with the ebook on it, would this passion have grown so strong to the point where, to this day, she is still passionate about reading? Let's answer that question in the following. First off, there is the monetary cost of an ebook. It's a severe drain on consumers' wallets. As you can see from this image, you start at a relatively small amount, fairly reasonable, and it gradually grows higher, just as these stacks of money. The initial purchase of an e-reader can range anywhere from $80 to $400, according to sites like Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Each of these sites have their own version of the e-reader. Amazon has the Kindle and Barnes & Noble has the Nook. Not only do you have that initial costly purchase of the e-reader, you also have the subsequent initial purchase and individual purchase of each ebook. And these ebooks can range anywhere from $5 to $25, with some costing less and some costing much more. Not only is it a monetary cost, you also have the timely costs due to charging and software updating, both of which are necessary for the continued function of the e-reader. There is also the potential for damage of the e-reader, whether this is external damage like a cracked screen, which is fixable but again is another additional cost, or more severe internal damage due to water or simply from age, something that could also be impacted by the necessity for software updating, as technology as it ages can often no longer support the new updates required for, say, new versions of books or new released books, which is another downfall of owning an e-reader, is it will eventually become obsolete. Not only can it have a monetary risk to consumers, it can also pose a health risk. According to a study from Yanyu Kong and his associates, with an article published on Science Direct pertaining to displays, they studied the usability of ebooks, varying from backlit to non-backlit displays. The backlit LCD displays, or liquid crystal displays, can cause visual fatigue, just as any laptop or iPhone can cause that visual fatigue. Symptoms of this visual fatigue include eye strain, headache, blurred vision, and dizziness. Even those e-readers that don't have the backlight and have the e-ink, which is most similar to a traditional book in appearance, you still are required to scroll through the text, following it, making it easy to lose your place. And that following of that movement constantly with the small text, which you either have to enlarge in order to see, but then have to scroll more, or have to read it small and you're squinting, it can cause those same symptoms of visual fatigue, which can be dangerous over time to the consumer. So while we have these two risks, monetary and health risks, you're also losing an essential component of books, Books are involved in a human connection culture. Books are meant to bring people together, and ebooks just don't have that opportunity. You can't lend a friend your e-reader because then you can't read another book. And a lot of e-readers don't give you the option to share your ebook with another individual because then they are losing sales. So it really limits the following of a lot of, say, new authors or up and coming authors, even authors that have been around for years and they just have an enormous following. Speaking of enormous followings, there are literary fandoms, such as Harry Potter. And these fandoms, according to some numbers from Donna Tam over at marketplace.org, the books themselves, the physical copies of the books, just the final book alone in the main series of Harry Potter sold 8.3 million copies within the first 24 hours of its release. Now these series of books have spanned into plays, which sold out its first year when it opened and has now expanded from London to have appearances in New York as well. There's theme parks now in California and Florida, being constructed in Tokyo, where the attendance for these theme parks increased by 30% with the construction of the Harry Potter portion. The movie franchise has grossed $7.7 billion in ticket sales, and this doesn't include the Fantastic Beasts portion of the fandom. These literary followings can answer pretty much any question you have about the literary series. So this leads into, what cognitive impact does an e-reader have over a traditional book? Well, a study from the University of Stavanger in Norway involved 10th grade students who were given 2 passages totaling 3,000 words in total between the two, and they were tested on the content and details of the text after they were done reading them. Now, those students who read the text on paper scored far higher than those who read it on ebooks. They were able to place events in order far more accurately and remember key details in the text. So it is suggested by Faris Jabbar from Scientific America that it is more difficult to navigate the text. And this may be due to how we were conditioned to read texts online. Whether that's posts on social media or articles, we're trained to skim rather than read fully. And this can translate into reading larger texts, including textbooks online. You're really losing out on a portion of the reading. You're not getting a full understanding of the text, which can affect grades and test scores. Now, books also have a physical presence on the shelves, stacks on coffee tables, whether it's cookbooks or teen novels from your youth or children's books. They all say something about who we are as a person and our interests, and really lends to understanding of an individual as well as lending a sense of personal identity in one's home. Not only that, but they have kinesthetic properties which can be extremely soothing to some people and liberating in some ways, whether it's the smell of ink and parchment, the dusty smell of an old bookstore from an old book, the weight of the pages in your left hand and the weight of pages in your right hand, the left hand being what you've already accomplished in reading, the right, the adventure, the journey that's yet to come, as well as the satisfaction of finally closing a book and closing that back cover, and the closure and satisfaction of finishing it, very similar to a journey. Now, this image is just kind of a diagram of some of the benefits of a traditional book. It can be autographed, it has a spine, it shows the progression of a journey, it smells good. You know exactly where to look within a book based off of that weight of the pages in different hands. It's easy to navigate. Ebooks are an investment, a monetary and costly investment. While they may be convenient and portable and perhaps even a time saver, because you don't have to go to a bookstore to purchase your new book. They just can't compete with the better cognitive abilities gained from traditional books, as well as the benefit of various kinesthetic properties, such as the smell and the feel of the pages in your hands. Now let's go back to that young girl from the story at the beginning. What may have happened if she had been given an e reader over a traditional book? She would have been distracted and overcome with everything else that an ebook or an e reader or an iPad has to offer, not the properties that are so core to the identity of a traditional book. And it's really a timeless practice of reading books, and it's something that should continue to be practiced over time. It's something that should never be lost. Thank you.